This week, we continue our journey through North Hill Track at Spear Creek, making a few interesting stops on the way to the Bendleby Ranges.
Simon found this really cool steep hill climb. It was quite interesting because it was rocky, it was dusty, and as Simon likes to call them, there are wombat holes.
Simon was excited about it, and if Simon's excited, we know it's going to be a lot of fun.
These big wombat holes got a few people parked, shall we say.
I had 2 cracks at it. The first crack, the car decided I want to change into second, so I put that into manual and drove it out of it.
Mike actually picked his tyre up and he was flexing quite a lot. He absolutely smoked it on the second go through.
I could see Simon, he put his foot down and he said there was a wombat hole there at one particular spot, so I put my foot down. Lemingtons were flying everywhere in the cabin.
Myself in the big Y62 basically followed the same line that Anya did and just gave it some gas, and the car just sent itself up the hill.
By golly, we were getting a lot of wheel lifts and some serious traction to get up some of these little jump ups out of the creek beds.
Some of those hill ascents, you really had to just go for your life. I was on the edge of my seat, to say the least.
Trusty Prado hasn't missed a beat throughout. Once again, can't find anything that was going to pull it up.
Gee, look at that climb up there. That is a steep climb on the way out, and we're looking for our diff lock.
You really couldn't see where you're going. You're basically pointing at the sky. I kind of had to launch a bit, so I launched. Mickey Thompson just sent it.
I like how they've set up these tracks nice and tight. Might not be the best of the Big Iveco, but I'm actually enjoying it. What do you just came down that steep descent? You got that tight right hander now?
Yeah, sure do, mate. I'm just mindful of the rock. I'm just going to set my back tyre across it just to gently roll over.
It was an amazing experience. It was awesome to see. That's what we had here to do.
After we came off the track, we pulled up at the Spear Creek Holiday Park. Just the little office there.
We were actually fortunate enough to be able to order some pizzas for dinner.
It's pizza night tonight.
Saturday night, we're ordering pizzas. We're going to go and pick them up at 8 o'clock. They're actually going to send us a message when they're ready.
All the guys here, Full Drive TV and all the sponsors, I think they've ordered 20 odd pizzas for tonight, so pressure's on.
Really excited to hit the swag. Great for us to get away, a bit of a father and son trip.
Lucky enough to have this amazing campsite that Simon's brought us to.
Kick back, relax, maybe have a cold drink and chat about the days that have been.
This is what I've been looking forward to, actually getting out, enjoying nature and getting to use these MDC campers.
Charlie from Mike Coolman has decided to put the AFL Grand Final on.
Today we've got Collingwood playing Brisbane.
I don't support either, but I just like stirring the pot, so whoever was saying one thing, I would go against it, just to create a bit of havoc.
Unfortunately, due to other commitments, this is where Hoodie and I depart the trip.
I think I speak for Alex and myself and we'd give a massive shout out to your 4x4, Simon Christie and his camera crew. Just a massive thank you from not only us, but everyone at Team Nava.
See ya!
We are doing a special twist on sausages with bread. These are gourmet lamb and feta sausages. We're toasting up some soft and fluffy wraps, melting some cheese into it and some pickles. Let's get these served up and in the mouths of the hungry camera crew. Gourmet sausage wraps, who's up first? Honey. Oh, look at all that cheese.
That's delicious. Very gourmet.
Top tier, Simon.
Top tier.
Top tier.
That's good.
So morning of day 5, we woke up at Spear Creek. Another beautiful day in front of us and another set of adventures.
Got to camp for the first time and it was fantastic. We were out there in the bush along a dry creek bed, beautiful big gum trees, top little camp. Had the little MDC Fort 9+, and I got to tell you, I loved it.
It was an uncomfortably warm night in the swag. It was horribly warm. It got windy at times, but it wasn't cold. It was warm.
Morning convoy, we'll just get a few cars in place and then we'll be ready to go.
Unfortunately, it's the last day on this trip for the MDC team. We've been called back into the office to sort out some stuff. We've got a new showroom opening in Sydney.
But firstly, we are going to go for a drive around this amazing property at Spear Creek.
Hooked up, ready to go, and it was time to split the convoy up between campers and non-campers.
The vehicles with the campers on the back took a scenic route down through the valley. Those without a camper, we took a ridge line tour. We drove up the steep ridge of this most beautiful mountain.
Caravan people went off one way, they went along the creek bed, we went up and up. We'd call it a good steep climb.
Blue sky, sunshine coming through.
Those of us with the caravans, we got to go down and drive along through the creek bed.
Really quite narrow, there were heaps of trees overhanging.
So just watch out up above and keep your eye on your mirrors so that you can see where your van's going because it's taking that shorter radius.
We literally only went about 2 k's up the gully, but it's completely different to what is behind me right now.
It was a lovely drive. You really had to just stay on line. It was quite steep both sides.
It definitely wasn't the worst morning I've had, just absolutely surrounded by these 360 incredible views. It's really astonishing. If the views weren't distracting enough, we just had the sun bearing straight into our eyes and could barely see over the dash.
All right guys, we're going to follow this fence line along for a little bit, and this is the last spot we get with room to turn over, then we'll go for a little bit of a walk if that's all right.
Normally on these trips we're hill climbing with the vans and cars, but this time we did some hill climbing with our feet.
We took off up the gorge to check out some canyons.
It was quite overgrown and quite narrow. It was pretty cool though because there were spots where it was tight, sharp left and right turns. It was amazing going up through there. The erosion through that area, it just highlights the power of water in country like this.
Charlie was carrying Olivia on the front of him, so he was balancing him as well as the baby to get through. It's actually nice to go for a walk through the property. You just felt like this little dwarf and amongst these massive mountainsides.
When we got to the top, there wasn't a lot of room to turn.
From up there, the view was fantastic.
Spent a little bit of time soaking in the views, taking some photos. I got the camera out again.
Overall, a really interesting drive.
Got back in the cars and came back to air back up and say our goodbyes and head back to the office after our drive back from Adelaide. I have no doubt that the rest of the crew will have an amazing end of their trip at the Bendleby Ranges. We've had a spectacular time. I've never been here before and absolutely it's stunning. The surroundings, the different landscapes, it's just beautiful.
It's only a short trip for MDC this time around.
Which is a bit of a casualty because they were maybe our favourites, but we also would never admit that.
Sorry you guys are leaving, travel safe and we will see you on the next one.
Safe trip guys.
We then went off down the roads less travelled. That takes you through the old ghost town of Hammond.
Anyone in the convoy been to Hammond before?
Can't say the Prana boys have, Simon.
I'm very keen to get there and have a look. Looking like a bit of a ghost town up ahead, Mike.
Spooky. I think the fear of the unknown has kicked in.
We're approaching the ghost town. We realised it wasn't actually so much of a ghost town. There was tradies doing works on buildings, people living there.
One couple in particular have got the old bank and the old general store and their house in between it, and they've been doing a bit of work on each of them.
You want to have a look at that?
We'd love to, yeah, if you don't mind.
Masks, we're going to go in and rob.
Let's get into it.
You go down to the bank today,
It was actually pretty epic to see that all the old infrastructure was still there, including the safe. Still had this 10-inch thick steel door on there.
Didn't know what to expect was in that vault. The last time they cracked open a vault in a bank that's privately owned in SA, they found barrels and, well, this time we found heads. But that's okay, they were just doll heads.
Apparently there was 2 banks here and 3 churches. We own the church over there as well. Right. So do you want to have a look at that?
Hope it doesn't catch fire when I walk in.
So out we went, straight through his back door to the old St Dominic's church. And it was this beautiful old stone building. It's not in use at the moment. The big beautiful pitch timber ceiling, stained glass windows.
It was spectacular to look at, but at the same time extremely freaky. There was old Bibles covered in cobwebs, just completely abandoned. Like they didn't even want to pack up and leave, they just left.
Of course, Mike being Mike, he had to do something that was a little bit out of the ordinary.
In the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit, I welcome you here to the Church of Hammond. I'd like to bring these 2 couples together. Today we'll join the rest of us in happy wedlock. Simon, do you take honey to be your lawfully wedded wife?
I do.
Honey, do you take Simon to be your lawful wedded husband?
Yes, I do.
Me, in front of God and Jesus Christ and glorious, I pronounce you husband and wife. You may kiss the bride.
So he delivered a wedding ceremony and then a sermon, and I had to confess.
Is there anything else you'd like to confess while you're here?
I'd like to confess to being handsome.
Glansome.
Handsome.
Glansome. In the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit, we renounce you of your sins. You are free to go, my child. Lord, hear my prayer.
On our way out of Hammond, and it became really eerie when we saw the cemetery out in the middle of the paddock. But I had to bring a little bit of humour at dead centre of town on the right.
Are people just dying to get in there or what?
Oh God. Plain awful. Mitch and I didn't even crack a smile.
Yeah, I think that's when the real ghost town truly hit in.
We're driving along towards the Bendleby Ranges, and at one point I actually saw a couple of farmers out on the right-hand side. The next thing we know, this old Hilux drove up to Simon's truck and introduced himself, and it was a gentleman by the name of John.
He then says, I've got some really interesting old ruins here. Would you like to come and have a look?
John's place, Canada Farm, is still a working sheep station.
There is a stone 64 stand shearing shed. You marvel at what these early settlers went through and the work that they did.
How many sheep a day would they do by hand with these?
Well, it's really over 100.
He had some really great ruins, he had some really great stories.
The railway line went past here. This was the old camp. There was another big 2-storey building here.
The old church had a huge underground cellar because there was conflict back then between the local Indigenous and the white settlers. If there was any threat, they would go down into the compound area.
The stonework is incredible.
This being a little bit more of a modern world, we saw some sheep trying to escape the hot sun.
They were bringing their sheep from probably 50 miles away to get here.
It's always great to get a good history lesson, and that is something that was definitely interesting and probably stick with me for the rest of my life. But we had to continue on to get to Bendleby because it's what we've been itching for.
Thanks, mate. Thank you.
People you made on the side of the road.
Yeah.
After we've gone through Johnburg, about 20 odd k's up the road is the turn off to Bendleby.
It was quite a long drive, about an hour and a half, but Mitch gave me some semi-decent company.
We finally rock up here at the Bendleby Ranges and we meet the owners Charlie and Kylie and their 2 dogs.
We're 23 years in tourism, which is something that my parents and neighbours started.
We occupy about 50,000 acres. How many? Yeah, 50,000.
Anyone want an ice cream? Check out the general store.
Time for an ice cream.
Went into their reception area, which you'd actually call a shop. Very, very impressed actually. Lots of good product for campers, holiday people like us, because this is so far away from everywhere else.
Need plenty of that.
So when you get here, first things first, make sure it's important, is get your coffee ice cream.
We thought we'd be just swagging it down, but when they offered us the shearer's quarters, how could we knock it back? We said yes.
It was really hot the next day, so we didn't really want to sleep in a swag. We thought it would just be more protected.
Many of our guests will take a visit in the evenings onto our Sunset Ridge lookout.
As we're approaching dark, we're hoping the cloud's just right.
Those beams of sunlight picking the gaps in the cloud are amazing. Hope the camera guys can capture this, because with the little phone cameras, it's not quite the same. Every time I see this, it just blows me away just how big the horizon is from here.
We were able to take in the views, which are anything up to 120 kilometres away.
You could see in the rearview mirrors the sun's starting to set and the colour's starting to change.
It really makes an exciting drive, doesn't it?
You could see it was starting to get a little bit light out into the west there. And when you look to the east, all of a sudden you had to look up and there's people there, and that just shows you this is definitely a must-see.
We were like in a circus arriving for all the people who were up there.
When we got up there was quite a few other visitors of the Bendleby Ranges up there already.
It was nice to talk to some others and just enjoying the sunset and what this country has to offer.
Simon has been hyping this up for the last few months and we get the most epic sunset I have ever seen.
If there's no photo, it didn't happen. Hey guys, please keep my accountant happy and follow the page.
Got up there and oh my God, what a view.
The view was pretty much 360.
It's the exact reason we travel all these kilometres, invest all this money into the gear. That right there, ladies and gentlemen.
If that sunset's anything to go by, the Bendleby Ranges is definitely where it's at.
It's really nice to be on a trip like this and bring my 15-year-old son, Jamie.
Funnily enough, once the day star disappears, it actually gets pretty dark.
It wasn't until it actually went properly dark that we'd realised everyone had already left the show, and we're thinking, you know what, this is a good time to bust out the novel spotties I got here on the Prado.
It's not an overly difficult four-wheel drive track, but in the dark and towing as well, it was a little challenging.
And by golly, were we glad that we all had a decent set of spotties to be able to get down the hill safely and be able to see clearly.
It was truly just amazing as well. Just to see the power that all our cars have heading down that mountain was unbelievable.
From down here on the flats, if you had seen us descending, it would have been something really special to see.
A really good introduction to Bendleby, and so much looking forward to what the next day is going to bring.
Next week on Your 4x4, we explore the scenic ridgeline of the Bendleby Ranges and tackle the hardest track in the area. With multiple cars getting stuck and needing repairs, will we make it back in one piece?
A girl alone on a bus at night? It's stupid. It's stupid, right?
Guys.
What are you still doing here, old man?
Hey, you dirty dogs, I'm going to slap your mama.
I got it.
What sort of a four-wheel driver are you? How much more can this guy break? That's a trip to the parts bin both ways.